we'd like to sincerely thank our Patreon supporters.
Hey everybody, we are still here at Holt Nurseries, and there is such a wide variety of plants here. It is absolutely incredible to have gone through these greenhouses, and I got to look at every single bench. That was really, really cool. We did an awesome tour of this nursery with Tom, and he showed us all of the greenhouses he has, and it's been really spectacular. And at the end of the tour, he was gracious enough to offer me to go through and pick out some plants that I could take home with me. You guys know I absolutely adore plants. That was such a generous offer from him, but I thought it would be really cool if I got him to pick out some plants for me. Now, I have a Halmahera Gecko enclosure at home that I custom built myself. I did all the interior work on it, and I put some plants in it already, but I could actually use a few more to kind of flesh it out, give the geckos a few more places to hide. Halmahera geckos are a really unique species of gecko. They're a little bit more heavy-bodied, they're bigger than crested geckos, so they do have a tendency to smash plants if they are not strong enough, but I figured it'd be really cool if Tom helped me pick out some plants that could actually go in their enclosure. So we're gonna get with Tom and see what he thinks. We got an awesome tour from Tom, going through the greenhouse, getting to see the wide variety of plants that he had, and I explained to him what kind of animals were in the enclosure that I really wanted to put the plants into, and he had some good recommendations and picked out some plants for me of what we're gonna put in there. Would you mind telling us about what all you picked out and why you picked it out?
Okay, so I must confess, I don't know much about the animal, you know, but what I did, I just got stuff I think would be good ground covers and animals can step on it. We got one tray of moss. We specialize in moss production here. Every row is a different type of moss, except for the ruby. I gave you two rows of the ruby.
The ruby is beautiful, so I don't mind that at all. The bottoms of the leaves are gorgeous.
Then you got one, this is a dwarf ficus. This is ficus too little.
Sounds like I named it.
Then these 4 rows, these are all different pileas. Ground cover pileas. This right here is called Paulownia. I always thought that would be a cool ground cover. This is Peperonia Hope. The people grow this as hanging basket material. These 4 here are all Hoyas, all different. Again, we specialize in little 2-inch Hoyas. So we got 4 different ones here. We got 3 variegated, and then we got 1 of the Hoya rope, or the Hoya compacta.
Well, Jerry can tell you variegated stuff is my absolute favorite, so that Hoya is wonderful.
Oh, excellent. I see you got some bromeliad, Tillandsias.
That'll add a nice splash of color in there too with the red.
Score the fruit or not?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Talk
okay.
about the fruit too.
We got coffee.
Now these aren't going in the gecko enclosure, but these are absolutely going to be planted in the backyard.
We got 4 pots of passion fruit because you tried that and you said it tasted very good. We got a dwarf mulberry. We got a pomegranate. We got this right here this is a commercial dwarf papaya.
That's going to be very cool to have on the property.
This right here is dwarf Cavendish banana.
So what's really cool is the fact that, so you have this greenhouse, this nursery where you have all these plants that you have, but you're also trying to introduce animals into this facility here.
I love it. One of my employees once told me anyone would work at a zoo if they could afford it. No, I think it's true, right? That's the coolest job to work, if you can work at a zoo or like a little kid in you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I would like to have the right amount of animals that I can take care of. And if I can figure out how to have a couple of employees that love animals, then maybe I can have more animals.
But how magnificent is it that you get to walk into the greenhouse, say, I want this plant, this plant, this plant, and populate those enclosures.
No, that's the coolest
huge
thing.
Variety. Yeah.
That is the coolest thing.
And you seem to really enjoy designing them too.
I do.
Planning out how they go.
Yeah, we did one last night, and I was really excited about it. I showed you.
The turtle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we go in the greenhouse, we get the pieces. A portion of our customers are reptile stores.
Yeah.
But I wish I could work more with them or have stuff specialty for, like I'd love to have a reptile mix.
Right.
Or an amphibian mix or something.
Yeah. Are people able to go online to your website and email you and say, hey, I have this awesome reptile enclosure, maybe send you a picture and say, what do you think, what type of plants would go good in here?
We're wholesale only. Our customer is the pet store.
Gotcha.
So go to your local pet store and ask for a Holt Nursery product though. Then maybe.
All right, I definitely shouldn't have interjected there. I'll stop. Go ahead.
Oh,
sorry,
I was going to say, yeah, we're wholesale only, but please go to your pet store and say you buy from Holt Nurseries, because we'd love to sell to your local pet store.
Absolutely. And what I was going to say when I interjected so rudely, a good way maybe to break in would be to maybe get a booth or share a booth at maybe the Daytona Reptile Show, and maybe work with some of those reptile people and stuff like that, especially those people that do the custom enclosure setups, and maybe where they know that they can call you and be like, hey, I need 4 of these, 6 of those, and then get them shipped out to them. That would be amazing for people to set up really unique, awesome enclosures for their poison dart frogs, for their geckos.
I did that show. I sold plants at that show before.
Yeah.
I would love to share these plants and my knowledge with the trade.
Super cool.
Well, I can't thank you enough, Tom. This was really generous of you, and I can't wait to get these into that enclosure. That is going to be way too cool.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Insane. Absolutely insane. And I'm super excited about the fruit trees.
We're back at the house. It's been a couple of days since we got back from Tom's. I have my trays of plants here beside me, and it has been absolutely raining like crazy the last couple days. The yard is just, it's very wet. Everywhere you try and walk, it is very, very wet. It's hard to do any kind of construction projects outside right now because of how wet it is. And so I figured this would be a perfect day to work on these guys' enclosure. Now, I had to bring Pete outside with me. He was complaining about not being able to see me and being left out. So as long as he stays nice and calm, he can be out here with us. But these geckos are a really interesting species. They are called Halmahera geckos, and they're also known as Gira marginata, or the poor man's lychee is what they're often referred to in the reptile trade, because they are still a very large-bodied species of gecko. They still get really, really big. Not quite as big as the Leachianus gecko, the world's largest gecko, but they still get very big, and they're far more affordable than a Leachianus gecko. There are localities of Leachianus gecko that stay a little lower in the couple $100 range, but typically the more sought after ones are over $1,000. And these guys, I think I got them for 150 bucks a piece, maybe 200 a piece. There he is up in the back corner there. That's the male. So I haven't even introduced these guys' names yet. Their names are Salt and Pepper. Pepper is the male Halmahera gecko, and Salt is the female. This is a 3 foot by 2 foot deep by, I want to say 2 foot tall black box enclosure. Black Box is a PVC enclosure company based out of Georgia, and this enclosure was really, really fun to decorate. So it was completely empty when I first got it, and I actually built up everything that's on the inside. I sculpted it out, put everything in here. Let me actually turn the lights on so we can get a little bit better look at what's going on in this enclosure. When I had first built this enclosure out and put it all together, I had a few plants that I had put in here, but they weren't really plants that were well suited to the environment. Obviously, you know, there's a fern right here that's doing okay. There's another type of fern right here. And then of course there's this pothos that is just going really crazy. When I first planted it, it was very, very short, and it has just vined all the way across the enclosure, which is very cool to see. But some of the ferns, like this guy, isn't doing great. Obviously, this guy back here is dead. There's just a little bit of a need for some more foliage in this enclosure, and it would be really, really cool to get some of those plants in here. One of my favorite things to do actually is collect driftwood. This piece that's in the back right here was one that I had found that I was very excited to build on. Some of these other pieces were really cool to me. I think the first thing that I need to do is go ahead and get some of this dead moss out of here. This was just stuff that I had field collected at my old house and treated it, made sure it was safe to go into an enclosure, but it just never did really well. It's more full sun moss, the stuff that, you know, was outside in Georgia, and it just has not thrived in this enclosure. So we're gonna go ahead, remove that, get the dead plants out of here, and then we'll take another look at it. So as I was getting some of this moss out of here and clearing it out, I noticed that Salt here was just kind of paying extra attention to what I was doing. And then I got over here to this back corner. Check it out. She actually has a pair of eggs back there. That is so stinking cool, Salt. So these guys have produced for me in the past. I never ended up getting any viable babies from them. This was really the perfect environment to let her lay the eggs where she wanted. I did have some concerns about whether or not the bugs that I was feeding them would end up getting out and trying to eat the eggs. So I ended up switching them off of crickets, and that's why I ended up getting this really deep dish so that they can eat super worms. And of course they get their fruit mix as well, the little mash stuff for them. But that is really stinking cool. I might actually put some of this same moss back in that back corner where I just found it. That way it can perfectly replicate the conditions that she chose where to lay these eggs. I do have this enclosure fully screened in with very fine mesh on the outside, so that it was originally so that nothing could get in here, but tiny little babies like that won't be able to escape if they hatch in here. It also takes an obscenely long time, not nearly as long as monitor lizards, but it does take a long time for the Halmahera gecko eggs to hatch. I want to say it's like 85 days or something like that. So that is really stinking cool to have found eggs back there. We're gonna keep clearing the rest of this moss out. So after having found those eggs in that back corner, I do have this kind of shelf platform. Look at her looking at me. I do have this kind of shelf platform that has, you know, this area underneath it. And I was gonna clear the moss out of there, but now knowing that she might have other sets of eggs hidden back in that corner, I think I'm just gonna leave it for now. It's not like we could really see the plants that get planted underneath there anyways, and I'll just focus on planting things more towards the front. But look at this pothos. It's kind of crazy what it's done. So it's really rooted itself and started grabbing on to things in this enclosure. It was rooted into the moss right here. It's putting out all of these aerial roots all over the place. It's got more here. It actually rooted itself into the ground there. It's really hard to kill pothos. They make for excellent enclosure plants. I've gotten a big tray of moss pulled out of here. All that was littering the floor out here. Of course, I left her little mossy back corner and organized these vines a little bit more to try and encourage it to grow up and around that way. I already had one little strand of Hoya in here, but we are going to put a little bit more in here as well. And I think, Pete, that we are ready to go ahead and start getting some of these plants in this enclosure. All right, this is the kind of rough preliminary placement of what I'm thinking for everything in here. It has been so funny. Salt, I don't know if it's because she's just very curious or if it's because she knows she's got eggs in that back corner, but when I've been working like over here, she's been like jumping to this platform and running over and seeing what I'm doing, and then I'll go back over here and start messing with the plants over here. And she just jumped back onto this log to come look at what I was doing over here. It's been very entertaining to have her so curious as to what I'm doing with all these plants. Now I am going to spread these out just a little bit more. I've got a little bit more room back in there and under there where I'm going to kind of spread these out and gap them out a little bit more than they are. But I have a decent amount left over, and all this is making me want to do is build another enclosure. So I think soon I'm going to have to do another enclosure build similar to this one. And I wouldn't mind going through the process of how I do it because it is a lot of fun. It means we'll get to pick out some really cool driftwood, and the fun thing with that will be that I'll actually be able to mold the enclosure a little bit more to accommodate even more plants. I mean, I was able to get a couple of these air plants in here. I got this guy in this corner. I was able to stick this one up inside this log up here. I have this one actually hiding my temperature probe right there, which was kind of neat. But I don't have many places where it would have been neat to do like a little crevice right here to have plants up here, do more plants up in that area kind of thing. So I think the next enclosure that we build will just make it a little bit more suitable. She's licking the water off that plant. We'll just make it a little bit more suitable to hold even more plants and plant life for these geckos. Well, the next build might not even be for a gecko. I think I'm gonna go ahead and work on getting some of these planted in, and then we'll see what it looks like. She's just being so cute. She wants to go ahead and go explore it now. That's how they get their moisture, by the way, is they lick the water and the moisture off of leaves, off of plants. All right, let's get planting. And I was gonna add that Tom gave me this awesome little ficus tree, but as you can see, it's almost as tall as this enclosure. So I think the next one that I build, when I go to build out the next enclosure, it's gonna be a slightly taller one, and I'll make sure that this is able to go directly into the deepest point of soil, because I think up here it would only be able to be planted about like that. We're gonna save that for the next build. I've almost got everything in place. I still need to get everything a good rinse down. Whenever you plant plants, you do a good watering in anyways, so that'll be able to rinse the dirt off and really let those colors pop. But I figured Salt has been so patient. So patient. Maybe we could reward her with a little buggy. Oh goodness. Oh yeah, I would say she was hungry. All right, we'll give him a few more. couple of interesting facts about the Halmahera gecko is that they have sticky feet. So they're able to walk across walls, walk across surfaces, stick to the plexiglass. They are able to stick to pretty much anything, which helps them climb vertical surfaces. Geckos, a lot of species of geckos, do not actually have eyelids, so they will use their tongue to lick and clean their eyeballs, which is crazy and really cool when you get to see them do it. This species of gecko and other species of geckos do what's called firing up and firing down, which means like based on their mood, their colors will actually change. And Halmahera geckos, when they're fired down, they can be kind of dark. Their colors are more subtle. When they're fired up, they can be either, I mean, these guys will get stark white. Sometimes they have tons of pattern that makes them kind of look like tree bark, and it makes them blend in better with their environment. Sometimes they look like stone. I mean, it is so cool seeing these guys change from, I mean, they can change minute to minute. 1 minute you look at them, they look one way, the next minute they will look a completely different way, and it is just way too cool to see them change like that. Now, the one kind of crazy thing about this species that makes them, I would say, a lot less of a common pet than, say, a crested gecko or a leopard gecko. The reason that Halmahera geckos are not a great pet for beginner enthusiasts is because they're just not very handleable. I mean, I've had mine for a good number of years now, and that makes them really curious and pretty used to what I do. But Halmahera geckos have this crazy defense mechanism that if they were to get caught by a predator or if they were to feel threatened, they can actually do something called sloughing off their skin. And entire portions of their epidermis, of their outer layer of skin, can just peel off and come off, and that kind of like a glove coming off, kind of like other species of lizards losing their tail. Halmahera geckos are able to slough off their skin. And the skin does grow back rather well. And it does come back fully formed. It just comes back a little bit lighter than it was before. That is one thing that makes these guys a little bit less of a handleable pet. If they are scared enough, if they feel threatened, they are able to make their skin fall off. So I don't handle these guys very much at all. I really just give them a really cool setup and admire them from afar. Everything is planted about where I want it. And I think it's time to give this enclosure a good spray down and finally see how everything looks once it's all sprayed off. I would say that's a pretty big success. This thing looks 10 times better. It is so incredible how much the addition of these plants have absolutely transformed this into just a lush jungle for these guys. It is so stinking cool. I think they are going to be so happy with the addition of all of these plants. I can't thank Tom enough for providing me with these incredible plants to just flush out this enclosure with. It is really, really incredible how all of these look in here. Now, I know I did plant these a little bit denser than than maybe I should have, but I know that not all of them are going to completely thrive in here. Some of them might have slightly different water and light requirements than others, so I don't expect that every little thing that I've planted in here is going to just absolutely thrive. Some of them might end up not making it, but those that do will blossom and take off and just absolutely cover this enclosure. Definitely really excited to see this so fleshed out. It is just so stinking cool. I might even have to get Jerry's reaction and not even send him any pictures today because he's not home today, but I might have to just get his raw reaction on camera later and see what he thinks of it. Thank you guys for joining me on this rainy day adventure. I absolutely love playing with plants, so this was a blast for me to just go crazy and use the plants that I had at my disposal to make this enclosure look totally awesome. And thank you guys for checking this out and meeting my geckos, Pepper and Salt, and watching me deck out this enclosure and make it look really cool. Thanks you guys for watching. Until next time.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. See you soon.